Shalom, my brothers and sisters. Shalom. I pray that these words find you in good spirit, encouraged and growing in obedience and worship to the Most High Yahuwah. I pray that you are increasing in discernment and understanding as the Spirit of Yahushua guides you. My name is Symmanayah, and these are my last breaths. As I mentioned before, last days, last breaths. So if you can grasp that we are in the last days, indeed, these are our last breaths. With that said, I am compelled to introduce this series titled Last Days, or should I say titled, to be more correct and specific, Symmanayah's Last Breath. Today is April 26, 2013, and I'm compelled to present to you something that stirs in my spirit. It's to share with you some thoughts behind a group that I established on Facebook called Yashar'al's Emergency Navigation and Routing. Yashar'al's Emergency Navigation and Routing. You see, my brothers and sisters, all too often we never know when catastrophic situations will occur. Unsuspecting, unplanned emergencies will emerge. Let's set the stage, or let's consider some possible conditions that lies ahead of us. I strongly believe many of these are in our future. Those of us who will be walking the planet, or those who will be walking the planet, I am strongly convinced that we will see such things occur. With that said, let's go. Let's look at these things here. There are many people who believe economic collapse is possible, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. There are many of us who interpret the scriptures when it talks about the mark of the beast, or one world government. There are many of us who believe that is reflective of what many echo as the New World Order or New World System. Do you think if a New World Order or New World System began to arise or emerge before us that requires mandatory worship to some world government, some world leader, do you think that believers would not be stirred? Do you think believers would not seek refuge or seek where to go, who to be with, what should we do? There are many who believe that catastrophic conditions are possibly over the horizon, that things will get worse before they get better. I included. Some of us believe chaos and civil unrest will one day break out in the United States, greater than what we are witnessing today, as well as an increase across the globe, worse than what we are witnessing today across the lands throughout the planet. Many of us believe civil unrest will enlarge due to many diverse conditions. I call these conditions and situations humbling events, a time of humbling events. It is also believed that we are in the last days, or end times, as some of us may choose to refer from time to time. There are many who also have come to grips with accepting that believers will go through the tribulation period, and that there is no such thing as a pre-tribulation rapture. Let me say that again. There is no such thing as a pre-tribulation rapture. Yes, people have many different positions on that, but soon that subject matter, that question, that doubt will be removed as we begin to see evidence of moving into the tribulation. Deeper into the fulfillment of Scripture, such that one would give pause to even remotely embracing such a belief or teaching. How far are we in these last days? How soon will we begin to witness more severe conditions that indicate fulfillment of prophecy, fulfillment of scriptures? Maybe you can add some things to be concerned about, such as global warming, drought, famine, lack of or reduced resources to survive. Maybe there are many conditions that we see that we can talk about. Think about this, my brothers and sisters. Do you think if all this upheaval began, if all this turmoil began, that there will not be some form of displacement, some form of individuals scattering, trying to determine where should they be, where's the safe haven, what's the best place to be to survive, who should we be with, whose company or what camp should we be a part of? If there becomes a major disruption in our country or countries, I mean something catastrophic that causes people to scramble with urgency and possibly experience fear and other emotions, things such as a major earthquake could cause a possible panic. The collapse of our government could create a panic. An unsuspecting nuclear attack could displace people. Indeed, what about things that are mentioned in Scripture, such as rivers turning to blood, a rise in pestilence, plagues, and other environmental conditions could cause a displacement? Leaking nuclear plants or nuclear waste. You see, my brothers and sisters, the sin, the greed, the rebellion of man will be met with the mighty hand of Yahuwah. Only He can decide and choose how these things will come to be. But I am compelled to believe with all my heart that we will see chaos and catastrophic conditions. And as I mentioned before, this is the season that will grow stronger, that I call a time of humbling events, a time of much reproof, much correction, a time of chastening, a time of judgment, and a time of wrath. Consider these verses if you believe Revelation to be true. Revelation chapter 8, verses 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then there are a few other verses. But let's go with Revelation 8, 7 through 12. And the first message sounded, and there came to be hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees were burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. And the second messenger sounded, and what looked like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood. And a third of living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. And the third messenger sounded, and a great star fell from the heaven, burning like a torch. It fell on a third of the rivers and on the fountains of water. Verse 11, and I'm in chapter 8. And the name of the star is called wormwood. And a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter. Verse 12. And the fourth messenger sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened, and a third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. Moving to Revelations chapter 9, verse 15. And the four messengers, those having been prepared for the hour and day and month and year, were released to kill a third of mankind. Revelations 9:18. A third of mankind was killed by three plagues: by the fire, and the smoke and the sulfur which came out of their mouths. The second woe is past, and see, the third woe is coming speedily. That's Revelation 11:14. Is the Bible true? Are these scriptures correct? Do they speak of things that are just symbolic? Or do they speak of things that will really happen, that will truly happen? Will some of us today be alive and see the beginning of these sorrows, the emergence of the wrath of Yahuwah, greater than what we've witnessed? With these things in mind, do you think there will come a time when people must flee or will be displaced before the return of Yahushua, the Mashiach, our Messiah? Do you think all of that I have mentioned could cause people running to and fro, people scrambling, trying to find a place of safety? Some other questions to consider. Who will be gathering? I submit to you, people of like minds and or relatives will tend to be the first thought. People who are in specific fellowships will probably gather with their camps. Typically in turmoil and chaos, you have where some strong, physically astute, maybe bright individual in their own conceit will try to lead up groups and cliques. But I believe, my brothers and sisters, that Yashar'al, a nation of believers, both Hebrew and Goyim, those who seek to worship and obey the Most High, those who have been called and or chosen by the Most High, will gather together, united, with one teaching, one belief, one purpose to worship and obey the Most High Yahuwah and accept Yahushua as Messiah and guide. I believe that the gathering will take place, and I believe it's going to be conditions that will humble us to seek to hear the voice. As for the non-believer, their rewards will be such that what we see written in Scripture, they will experience some things unimaginable. But this message is to the believers, those who truly seek to worship and obey the Most High. This message to those who convert and come into the oneness of that one purpose of worshiping and obeying under one name, under one banner. You see, my brothers and sisters, this will be a time where we will have to make some decisions. This is a season right now where we should be preparing our minds, our bodies, just thinking about it, preparing. So in the event of, or when we see these things occur, we have been prepared, trained to respond accordingly. If the hand of Almighty Yahuwah is executing His plans, are you prepared to follow His orders? Or would you call a moray, an elder, a counselor? Will you give pause? You see, my brothers and sisters, the Most High know how to reach, how to convict, and how to convince. The Most High will not be asking for our permission. There are certain orders that will be executed, and we will be strongly influenced and convinced if and only if our desires are to serve the Most High, or if the Most High see fit. You see, we are not in control of these things. What if communications are broken down? You cannot reach people of major concern. You cannot reach people in your camp. Have you given thought to what should be done, what you should do? Have you prayed and studied Scripture and sought to grow in discernment and understanding such that you can identify others of like mind, others with same core beliefs? These are some questions, real questions to consider, my brothers and sisters. For these challenges, these conditions may come upon us sooner than we expect. I have created a group for the purposes of like-minded believers. Yashar'al, the nation of believers which consists of both Hebrew and Goyim, who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father Yahuwah and embraces Yahuwah as Mashiach, Messiah. This is not a group that will welcome compromising teaching nor compromising behaviors. It is therefore important that we communicate, that we learn how to reason one another, that we learn how to examine the witness of one another, our words, how to examine what we believe to be true, how to yield and allow the Spirit of Yahushua to bring about that iron sharpening iron. This is the time when we should begin to practice, exercise, demonstrate a yearning to grow, to sharpen our senses, to sharpen our abilities to draw closer to one another. It is therefore important, my brothers and sisters, that we seek out the intent of one another, the behaviors of one another, for the purposes of the body being knitly joined together. Many of us think we have our own personal business, our own private lives. Do not underestimate the power of discernment, for Yahushua will reveal and uncover all that is necessary to fitly join together those who seek to worship and obey Him. We are not our own. One way or another, my brothers and sisters, we are influenced, whether it be by righteous acts or unrighteous acts. Yes, we will give account as individuals, but keep in mind there are hidden influences. There are influences such as that of the enemy or the mighty power of the Most High Yahuwah. Let us get to know one another, my brothers and sisters, for the purpose of building unity, for the purpose of being one in worship and obedience to the Most High. It is and will always be paramount, most important, that we share the same core beliefs. I am compelled to believe when enormous proof, the hand of Almighty Yahuwah becomes very obvious, humbling conditions and events will be enlarged and increased among us. It would be wise to identify people of core beliefs, of like core beliefs, as well as people who know how to navigate from one point to the next, knowing how to discern the difference between north, south, east, or west, in or west. It will be vital, for when displacement begins, believers will begin together. Believers of core beliefs, people of like beliefs will come together. But my concern, my conviction, my actions are directed towards informing Yashar'al, those who seek to worship and obey the Most High. I am compelled to believe, my brothers and sisters, when severe displacement occurs, people will begin to ask questions such as, where are we going? What resources can or should we take? Who will guide us? How will we survive? How long will these conditions last before the return of Yahushua, the Messiah? What will happen to those that are left behind? Why can't specific people join us and walk with us? How can we identify the true leaders of the Most High Yahuwah, guided by the Spirit of Yahushua? You see, my brothers and sisters, whether we give thought to it or not, these questions pose some serious concerns and bring about expectations for answers. For the guidance from the Spirit of Yahushua will be proven, and there will be discipline, structure, and a sense of direction to those who the Most High Father have designated to participate in fulfilling scriptures regarding Yashar'al's great gathering in these last days. Pray, my brothers. Pray some more. Pray earnestly. If you can receive any of these words, seek discernment and understanding, for they will be key attributes to walking in the right direction. For there will come a time when each of us must decide, who will we follow and or obey physically? That's right, I'm saying physically. You see, there are a lot of silos out there. There's a lot of people saying, I follow no man. And yes, the scripture tells us not to follow man, not the spirit of man. Let us be able to discern Whether it's the mouth of a donkey being open, whether the stones are shouting out, or whether Yahushua's Spirit decide to speak through one of us towards one another. Remember, the Most High Yahuwah has, does, and will continue to use people to fulfill his plans, as well as the Malachims are used to fulfill his plans and to protect his assemblies. I encourage you, my brothers and sisters, I encourage you with all my heart to begin discussing these matters with those whom you are compelled and establish possible plans of action when the time emerges. You'll know. You'll witness. We'll witness a shaking like man has never before witnessed. Any believer walking the planet will know what's unfolding if their eyes are open and ears can hear what the Spirit is revealing. Begin, my brothers and sisters, to pray and prepare for making decisions which there will be no return. My heart goes out to Yashar'al. My heart goes out, for many of us know that we're facing many different teachings, doctrines. There's much confusion because of the infections and attacks from the enemy. But know this, my brothers and sisters, know this, deep within your heart, mind, body, and soul, the Most High knows your intentions. The Most High knows those that are his, those that are called by his name, those who represent him in worship and obedience. The Father is not slack concerning those who diligently seek him, concerning those that are his. So begin, my brothers and sisters, begin to pray and prepare for making decisions that you may not be able to contact the person that you've been accustomed to leaning on for leadership. You may see an emergence of leadership that you never expected would occur. But know this, the Father will establish elders, will establish leaders, and it will be proven those that are guided by the Spirit of Yahushua. Yashar'al's Emergency Navigation and Routing is a group, again, that I created on Facebook. Yashar'al's Emergency Navigation and Routing can be found as a group on Facebook under Symmanayah. Symmanayah. It's not about me. So if you choose not to be a part of a group that's preparing, that you believe is preparing and taking under consideration some details, that is your choice. But consider whether we ignore the fact that it takes details to move a group of people from point A to point B or to point Z. It takes time. It takes method. It takes resources. It takes conditions that are conducive. Are you aware that traveling across the desert during the day is the hottest point? So, if possible, it's better to travel if you're crossing the desert during the night. Are you aware that if you're traveling and trying to get to a place and you must pass through mountains, that the heat of the day is oftentimes better than the cool of the night? Sometimes it is better when crossing the mountains. You see, there are different things to consider when traveling, especially if we don't have the conveniences that we have been accustomed to. Ask some of the people that are overseas who travel through mountainous territories or through battered lands. Yashar'al's Emergency Navigation and Routing is to heighten the awareness of methods, alternatives on how to navigate to the place where you believe the Most High is guiding. I personally believe, and am compelled to believe, and have mentioned this in many messages, that Yashar'al in the United States would be gathered in the state of Virginia. Somewhere in the state of Virginia, I believe Yashar'al will be gathered as one before going to an appointed safe place that have been designated by the Most High. I believe that Yashar'al, nation of believers across the globe, will be gathered to the uttermost borders of their countries that point towards Mount Sinai. And I believe at some point they will be gathering to the othermost parts of their borders, such that from there they will leave and move towards Mount Sinai. Not Mount Sinai as we know it, for I believe that the borders have been distorted. However, the Most High will prove where we are to go, what we are to take, who are to be a part of such an endeavor. And let me say this, my brothers and sisters, I am not part of any camp, any group, or anyone talking about flee America. I am speaking only what I am compelled to present to you. So is there a group that has been established? Is there a specific place in Virginia if you are in the United States? No. I am only giving what I am compelled to give. I don't know, so I'm not hiding anything. But these messages, these words are for your scrutiny, for your examination, for your evaluation. These are for you to decide. But know this, my brothers and sisters, there will be disruption, there will be displacement, and it will occur in more ways than we can imagine, more ways than we've ever given thought. Yes, we've read about catastrophes. Yes, we've seen catastrophes on TV, depending on what style of living you have or on the internet. But how many of us have faced these things head on? How many of us have faced what is to come, the chaos and catastrophes? You be the judge, my brothers and sisters. You decide whether you will prepare your mind, your body. Pray and watch, for that day will come. And when these times emerge, this message will prove to be fruitful. If you cannot receive it now, in due season you will. All scriptures will be fulfilled. Fret not, my brothers and sisters, for some will be martyrs, and there will be some used to demonstrate the fulfillment of scriptures as it relates to Yashar'al coming together. Again, my name is Symmanayah, and these are my last breaths. Today is April 26, 2013. My heart's desire and prayer is that we will be prepared to receive diverse groups of people with the same thing in mind, and that's worship and obey. And again, I am not talking about compromising spirits or compromising teachings. I'm talking about those who have learned how to reason, how to yield to iron sharpening iron. I'm talking about those of like belief who understands that it is the Spirit that makes all scriptures alive. I'm talking about those who hunger after true righteousness without any hidden agenda, who hunger to worship and obey the Most High. This message is directed to those. I bid you peace, my brothers and sisters. I bid you much peace and love. Until next time, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom.